our first talk. It's called The Elephant in the Room, Mounting a 19th Century Elephant Armor at the MSMSII Museum in Jaipur. Anjali Jain is a freelance objects conservator. Over the past 7 years, she has worked with the Science Museum and the Clivenden Conservation in London, as well as with various institutions in India, like Jaipur Palace, where she currently works as a consultant. She's also engaged with digital humanities project Mapping Color History with Harvard Global to undertake non-invasive analysis of illustrated manuscripts in Indian collections. Rajiv Kedia is Joint Managing Director of Techno Centre India Private Limited. He is skilled in custom fabrication for interior and architectural applications, design and product development for augmented living. He's worked for premium hospitality chains like Taj and Oberoi's and has supervised project executions in celebrity homes across India, as well as in the United Arab Emirates and the USA.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Rajiv and I are joining the conference from the city of Jaipur in India, and we both will be presenting our work on the mounting of a 19th century elephant armor at the Maharaja Sawai Singh II Museum. The MSMS II Museum is situated in the northern Indian city of Jaipur, which is the capital of the state of Rajasthan. The old walled city of Jaipur was built by Maharaja Sawai Singh II in the 18th century in a grid pattern, of which the City Palace complex is an integral part. It was and still remains home to the royal family of Jaipur and houses the Maharaja Sawai Singh II Museum that aims to convey the story of Jaipur and its royal family through art, architecture, and other varied collections. In 2018, the curatorial team discovered a complete suit of elephant armor in an abandoned palace store. It was made up of 6 distinct parts. One headpiece for the trunk of the elephant, 2 pieces for the ears, 2 huge side panels, one for each of the elephant's 2 flanks, and a separate one for the tail. The armor pieces consisted of a base padding which was made of several layers of cotton wadding and cotton fabric that were hand-stitched together along with frills of cotton and silk at the borders. The front metal segment of the armor pieces consisted of iron plates and fragments of iron chainmail borrowed from the suits of armor made for soldiers. In medieval times, elephants would have worn suits of armor like this into combat, but this one, with its colorful velvet borders, was made at a later date, probably in the 19th or early 20th century for processions, ceremonies, or even royal weddings. Whatever its date, it's an exceptionally rare survival as very few other museums in the world have a complete suit of elephant armor to rival this masterpiece. The elephant armor was therefore shortlisted for the then upcoming Transport Gallery, which meant to mimic an actual procession on the streets of Jaipur, a royal tradition which continues to this day. The objects were therefore meant to be shown as they are used and experienced in such processions. The curators wanted to display the elephant armor on an elephant-shaped mount to showcase this object in all its royal glory at the head of the procession. Since the material in direct contact with the object had to be both inert as well as moldable, stainless steel was finalized as the mount material. The external metalworking studio of Mr. Rajiv Kedia was therefore approached. I will now hand over to Mr. Rajiv, who will explain the mount designing and making process.
Hello, art lovers. The task of designing the elephant mount was entrusted upon us as a simple metal fabrication job. Citing that an elephant-shaped mannequin is required for displaying an elephant armor. Being a second-generation entrepreneur with a background of precision engineering and architectural fabrication, it was an exciting opportunity to work with the royal collections of Jaipur City Palace. In my maiden visit to the stores of the City Palace, I was overwhelmed to see how methodically the six pieces of the object were stored. As the first step, we took templates of the six-piece suit and deciphered the size of the elephant mount which would be suitable for the structure. It worked out to be over 14 feet long, 8 feet high, and 6 feet wide. Also, its exact layout in the space allocated in the gallery and the position of the trunk discussed later. Visibility from the valley. The real challenges of mount making came to the fore when we started interacting with the object's conservator, Mrs. Anjali Jain, over the nitty-gritties of attaching the object with the mount. We had to set up the elephant mount in a gallery along with several other artifacts and displays, and the entrance doors to the gallery were rather small. Moreover, each of the side pieces of the elephant armor and also the headpiece was significantly heavy, and it was a rather difficult proposition to adorn the mount with the object in the constrained surroundings in the gallery. Thus, we modularized the elephant. It facilitated individual components of the armor to be attached properly with its respective mount at floor level in the working studio, and finally get assembled in the gallery piece by piece. The modularity would also allow safe handling and transport of the elephant as an exhibit to other prestigious museums all across the globe. For maximum focus on the object, the designers and curators suggested a monolithic base instead of a four-legged body for the elephant mount. We took a 12 thick oval base plate in MS for a heavy base and built the support structure over it, starting with two parallel columns of 150 by 150 interconnected at multiple levels. The entire mount was designed such that the main object would be in contact only with the stainless steel surface, which is an inert material. The SS skin was backed by MS grid, and each piece was duly attached with the main support structure. Fabricating the individual object mounts of the six-piece suit was a story in itself, as these were organic in shape and we had to engineer a 3D shape from flat templates. The basic outline for each skin piece was laser cut from flat SS sheets, which were shaped individually for the desired curvatures. These were repeatedly checked against templates to ensure that their size matched the object as closely as possible. The fall of fabric with metal links and border frills is quite unpredictable. The backing MS strips for each section were created by cutting hollow sections and solid strips and shaping them with a three-roller arrangement to give the desired shape. The cut and curved MS pieces were welded together and attached to the SS skin to form the individual mount. Provisions were made to attach detachable handles and hooks for proper handling of each piece. At every stage, the shape and outline of the fabricated pieces were checked against the object templates to ensure a proper fit. The mechanism for attaching each object mount to the base structure required a lot of thought and planning. The head and tail pieces were attached using high tensile fasteners. The majestic side pieces were lifted and attached with J hooks, and the ear pieces were slided in with a telescopic arrangement. Once the entire mount was fabricated and assembled in our workshop and tested for their strength and form, each component was duly cleaned and surface treated before dispatching to the museum. Particularly, the SS skin edges were well grinded and the surface was brushed to ensure safe and proper mounting of the object pieces using Velcro strips and other support mechanisms. Finally, our team assembled the entire mount in the Rathkhana or the transport gallery in the City Palace Museum. I will now hand over the presentation back to Mrs. Anjali Jain to explain the mounting process for the armor on the elephant mount.
Once the mount was handed over to the museum, each SS skin mount was detached from the base structure to mount the object. The black strips on the earpiece visible in this slide are the hook Velcro, the attachment process for which will be discussed in later slides. Since the back part of each armor piece was made up of cotton, woolen, and textile layers, the conservation team decided that Velcro mounting would be most suitable due to its strength and ease of mounting textiles. A surrogate armor piece was test mounted to check the methodology and identify deficiencies. For instance, we realized that we needed to be extra cautious with sealing the top edge of the vertically mounted armors to prevent the appearance of a visible gap between the object and its mount. The total amount of Velcro required to mount each piece was calculated based on the weight of that piece and the load-bearing capacity of the branded Velcro. The Velcro used ended up being much more than what was mathematically required, but it was better to err on the side of caution due to the heavy weight of these valuable pieces. We then started attaching the 2-inch loop Velcro, machine stitched to 2.5-inch cotton twill tape behind the actual object. The ears and tail being the smallest and lightest parts were mounted first. A cotton dust cloth was included between the loop Velcro and the backside of the object. This was washed, ironed, and pinned in place. The placement of loop Velcro was planned such that it would bear the object weight evenly without causing the top and side edges to flop or fall forward in a vertically mounted position. The Velcro strips were then pinned in place and machine stitched onto the dust cloth. This assembly was pinned behind the armor piece and stitched using a staggered running stitch through the cotton twill tape as well as the object's textile layers. A mercerized cotton thread was used to be compatible with the object's cotton components without it being too strong. The edges of the dust cloth were lastly folded in and sealed with the object padding using a whip stitch. Loop Velcro was similarly attached behind the left earpiece and the tail and trunk pieces. In addition to the Velcro, a few other support mechanisms were also provided. On each piece, additional stitching was done through all the layers in some key weight-bearing spots to provide support and prevent delamination of the individual layers on vertical mounting. Additionally, 2 mm stainless steel wire ropes were attached to each piece using the metal rings present on the object. The other ends of the ropes were secured to the mount at a later stage and will be discussed in further slides. The 2 side panels were the heaviest pieces of all due to their huge size. A more complicated system had to be designed to support their weight. The loop Velcro strips for these were attached in a staggered manner to allow even distribution of the object's weight once mounted. Also, 2 stainless steel slats were added behind each panel for securing the steel wire ropes. These slats were inserted inside a heavy cotton canvas sleeve stitched horizontally behind the object in between the rows of loop Velcro. The stainless steel wire ropes were then attached to each slat and secured to the base structure after the mounting of the object. Hook velcro was then attached to each of the SS mounts. Stitched loop velcro positions from behind the object were marked on Melinex overlays. The Melinex overlay was flipped on to the respective SS mount and hook velcro was attached on it by using the loop velcro outlines as a reference. Hook velcro strips were similarly attached on the tail, trunk and side panels using their respective Melinex templates as a reference. The large size of the side panels made it difficult to exactly align the loop and hook velcros. Therefore, additional strips of 1-inch hook velcro were attached on either side of the 2-inch hook velcro to accommodate for any manual error. Steel screws were also drilled into the 2-inch velcro strips by Mr. Rajiv's team to provide secondary support in case of future adhesive failure. Screw holders for securing the SS ropes from each object were attached behind their respective mounts by Mr. Rajiv's team. In both side panels, holes depicted in red were drilled in the SS sheet mount for passing the steel ropes attached to the object. The steel wire ropes from the upper and lower slats are illustrated in white in this image, and the screw holders for securing them are depicted in green along the bottom edge. Each object piece was placed onto its mount with strips of Melinex as a masking layer to allow adjustment of the object position. Once the matching of loop and hook velcros was ensured and the object position finalized, the Melinex masking was pulled out and the object was pressed onto the mount with cotton pillows to engage the velcro. In the case of the side panels, the armor was manually carried onto the mount placed on the floor. 9 pieces of flex were placed as a masking layer between the object and the mount to prevent the velcro from engaging. These were pulled out one by one from under the object, allowing us to engage the velcro in sections by pressing the armor with cotton pillows. Both side pieces were mounted on their SS mounts and their alignment with respect to each other was checked to ensure symmetry before mounting them onto the base structure. Finally, each of the object-mounted SS structures were attached to the base structure using the mechanisms discussed earlier by Mr. Rajiv. The steel wire ropes from each armor piece were then secured behind their respective mounts by tightening the screws of their screw mounts. And that was how the elephant in the room was dressed to lead the procession in the gallery. We'd like to thank the trustees of the Maharaja Sawai Singh Second Museum Trust who provided us this wonderful opportunity by engaging us to undertake the project. A special thanks to Maharaja Sawai Padmanabh Singh who took a keen interest in the design and installation of this wonderful piece. We'd also like to thank the curatorial and collections care team at the MSMS II Museum as well as the design and fabrication team of Techno Centre India Private Limited who provided the necessary support throughout this elephantine project. Thank you.
Amazing. I have to say that the design and execution of the entire thing is just absolutely mind-blowingly smart. Everything looked so fantastic, and all the solutions you guys came up with.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start off with a quick question myself, and that is, you didn't really talk about this part, but Rajiv, normally you work in the hospitality industry. How did the two of you meet up for this job?
Well, I was recommended by Mrinalini, and Anjali came in as the objects conservator. So we were discussing various materials with which we could be doing such a mount. And we had worked for a couple of other museums in Jaipur for some architectural applications from where I was roped in for this project. So this was my first attempt at something related to a conservation thing and something related to actual museum object curation.
Excellent. Do we have any questions in the room at this point? Yes.
We have one virtual question.
Okay, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Was there any concern of damaging the object when removing it from the mount because of the pressure required to release it from the Velcro?
Yeah. So we haven't actually tried like removing the object yet. Of course, we did it as part of the trials. Of course, if we pull the object out directly from the mount, it would there would be a chance of ripping things off. But the way we plan to do it is by inserting some kind of a steel slat or a hand in between the object and its mount, so that we're not actually causing stress on the stitching part of the object, but we're disengaging the Velcro bit by bit, and then we insert a barrier layer for the parts that we've disengaged, and then we can separate the mount easily. We've tried that.
Thank you.
Hi, is this on? Yes. That was actually kind of similar to my question as well, because I thought you had said that this might travel to other museums. Is that correct?
There is a possibility. I mean, yeah,
Okay.
it's just one of the things that we thought that could happen now that each object has a rigid support mount with it.
All right. That was most of my question. Just because I was very impressed with how you put everything together just for installing it with your separation layers. So I'm assuming you have like an entire book telling how to deinstall at the same time. Because who knows when it's going to be deinstalled? Do you have like a manual for deinstallation that will remain with the museum?
Yes, we did create a complete PDF document stepwise, and it was properly documented during installation also.
It's very impressive. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have another virtual question.
Yeah.
Okay. Was the Velcro glued to the stainless steel, and what glue or adhesive was used?
So we used epoxy glue for gluing the Velcro to the stainless steel, because yeah, it's just that in the long term that would not fail. For time constraints, in some cases we had to use the original branded Velcro adhesive itself. But what we tried to compensate with was by adding steel screws in those cases, so that there is no risk of adhesive failure in the long term.
Thank you.
Yes, I have a question. This is a fabulous mount, and I was just wondering, it looked like so many people were working together. What was the time frame for fabricating the steel parts, and then what was the time sort of putting the actual fabrication of the cloth or the textile parts, and then what was the grand total for setting everything up?
So I think we were working hand in hand on a lot of aspects. I was roped in for this project in the middle of June 2023. And by mid-July, we were able to give the final consent to the shape and styling as to how we are going to produce it. And it took us 3 months to complete the project, from the conception stage to the actual installation at the City Palace.
Yeah.
So by September 2023, it was installed in the gallery. 3 months.
Yeah. And with the mounting of the object part, we sort of started somewhere in the middle of July, and we were able to do the final installation of the object by the end of September. So again, another 2.5 months on the object mounting part.
It was parallel working, to and fro. A lot of things were being coordinated as to how are we going to attach, and time and again we were checking it with the templates and the object. Any more questions, please?
All the time we have questions, all the time we have for questions for you. But again, if people have further questions, you can contact them through their email address on the website. And thank you both so much.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, everyone.